All right, today we're going to be talking about bad debt versus good debt and how much debt is too much debt. So, first thing we're going to go into is talking about bad debt and what that looks like. So, bad debt are things that lose value over time, and they also don't generate any long-term income. So, I'm not going to be covering all the types of bad debt in today's video, but a good rule of thumb is if those things lose value and there's no long-term income associated with them, they are a bad debt and you want to get rid of them. Now, common forms of bad debt that most people do know about, but they still carry them and they still have them weighing on their conscience is credit cards. That's a huge one. I have tons of friends that have a lot of credit card debt. They have to keep on buying the newest thing and they're just getting more and more into debt each and every month. If you have credit card debt, that is something that you want to get rid of right away. They can be a great tool if you use them properly. If you're trying to get points and you use them as a debit card, they can be a great tool. But if you do not have the discipline to keep that credit card and use it responsibly, I do not recommend having a credit card and having that bad debt on you. Another type of common bad debt are payday loans. This is a type of loan that you want to stay away from. Payday loans are so dangerous. Oftentimes people will go out and they'll take out a payday loan because they don't want to go to their friends or their family and ask for money to pay their debts. But what people don't know or don't care about payday loans is that they can cost you up to 400% interest every single year. So these are supposed to be short-term loans, but very often people will take out these loans and then next month come and they still don't have the money because guess what? They still have the same bills that they had last month. So they have payday loans generating no long-term income, such a high percentage rate, and then they end up having to ask their friends and family for that money that they didn't want to ask for in the first place just to pay off that payday loan. So stay away from those two large types of bad debt. Now, we're going to get into good debt, and there's some things I'll talk about in this category that, in my opinion, can either be good debt or it can be bad debt. But first, the definition of what good debt is investments that grow and generate long-term income. So you can know that you have good debt if they do one of those two things for you. So common forms of good debt, and this is debatable, like I said, are student loans. So very often people will call them a good debt because you need to get your education so that you can make a lot of money at a company or something like that. However, I disagree with this. I think that there are many ways to be able to accomplish getting your education or getting a good paying job without having to go into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And I think that if you have student loan debt and you have the possibility to pay that off sooner rather than later, I say get out from under that. Don't stay with that debt because really, even though it does allow you to make more income every single month, it is not an investment that grows unless you want to see it from the perspective of maybe you make more money in your job because you got that. But it's not generating that long-term income because you have an interest rate associated with that student loan. So get rid of that student loan today. Another good debt, though, that we can talk about is a mortgage on a house. So this is especially important if you can afford it, which we're going to talk about in our next section about how much debt is too much debt. But if you can afford that mortgage, you're going to be paying down what you owe on that house each and every month versus going out, renting a place and paying that money to a landlord like myself and not being able to make an investment that pays you over time, because eventually you're going to owe that outright. You would have had a low interest rate, hopefully, on your house over the course of that loan, and you're not lining somebody else's pockets, paying that rent money every single month. Another section of possible good debt are going to be HELOCs, or home equity lines of credit, that you take out equity on your house and you're able to use that money to invest in other sources of investments that will grow over time and generate long-term income. And it's just a tool. It's not something to go out there to get yourself in trouble. But if you're able to use it right, HELOCs can be a really good form of good debt. So as I said, I'm not going to go over every single form of bad debt and good debt, but these are the general principles that you can go by to figure out if you have good debt or if you have bad debt. Another one of those possible categories can also be your car loan. This is going to lose value over time. So everyone needs a car to get to their job. However, if you're buying that most expensive car, that is definitely going to be detrimental to you in the long run and not let you save as much money every single month. But how much is too much debt? So there's some rules of thumb here. This is not true for every single person, and this is just something that you can kind of go by to evaluate the debt that you have and whether or not this is going to be good debt or bad debt or too much debt for you. So the first rule of thumb is student loans. So if you do owe student loans or if you're thinking about taking out student loans, try to keep that to 10% of your gross income. So what do I mean by that? So if your payment every single month is 10% of what you make. So if you make $50,000 a year, you could afford at the 10% rule to pay $279 every single month to pay towards that student loan. So if you're doing that, you're asked, well, how much student loan can I take out then? The max debt that you can take out for student loan will be $26,000 at a 5.05% interest rate if you know that the job that when you get out is going to make $50,000 a year. Now, if you're a doctor or you're an engineer or something that's going to make much, much more than this, you can go ahead and evaluate and think what is going to be the best decision for you. But if you're thinking about taking out those student loans, 10% of your income is a good rule to follow. Next, we're going to go into mortgage, which will be 36% of your income. So that's a good rule to follow to say that you can afford a house. And very often banks will sort of help you do this by evaluating your debt to income ratio. I would argue that you would want your payments to be less than this. This is really just a rule of thumb. The lower the percentage that you can get per month in housing is going to be better for you and allow you to save more and invest more money. Finally, car payments can be very, very expensive. If you can pay for that car in cash and you can get something to where you don't need the most brand new, nice car, 20% rule is a good rule to follow. However, just if you make $200,000, it doesn't mean that you need to go out there and get a car that's going to be 20% of your payments every single month. That can be a lot of car, and you may not need that car. So these are just a few rules that you can follow. Of course, you want to get rid of that credit card debt. You want to get rid of those payday loans. You don't even want that to be on your radar for what you're paying. And if you owe that money, you really should try to knock these numbers down and not have as much that you're paying on your bills every single month, so you can put more to pay down those loans each and every month. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe and like our channel. Till next time.